Well, we are almost wrapped up in this month of finances. I'm sure we all have our finances in tip-top shape. Did we do it? Did you do it? Did you do the stuff? I did the things that I said I was going to do. But we need to get some next steps on this long grind of financial healthiness. So let's finish out the month with talking with our best buddy in ADHD finances, Tina Mathams. Let's go. You are listening to ADHD Big Brother, the podcast for adults struggling with their ADHD and their depression and anxiety and blech. I'm your host, Russ Jones. I'm an ADHD coach, and I run the Platinum Award-winning community coaching of the same name, ADHD Big Brother. And I also have ADHD and depression. It's craptastic. Welcome aboard. Let's learn some stuff, laugh at some stuff. And ladies and gentlemen, here's some stuff. Welcome to the podcast. Glad you're here. So insincere. Hey, welcome to the podcast. Glad you're here. Whatever. Take a seat. I don't give a shit. Whatever. How you doing? You doing pretty good? I'm doing pretty good too. Oh my God. I'm doing all right. That's how most of us talk, but why don't we do this? Let's open up a little bit. Let's crack open our cranium, stir up some of that skull spaghetti we call a brain, and let's talk about what's really going on. Here is my mental health update. I feel like I need theme music right here. The mental health update with Russ Jones. This is where we talk about the good, the bad, and the weird in our mental health, just to normalize talking about it, Let's go a few onion layers deep, shame-free. I'll go first. I'm a little under the weather, and my girlfriend, she's gone on vacation, and my kids are with their mom right now, so I bet you hear a boo-hoo coming. I bet you hear it. It's a lot. It's a lot of lying in bed, getting out of bed to be productive, and then going back to bed. I'm taking bed breaks, is what I'm saying. And that's not great for me. Beating myself up a little bit because I'm not, doing my stretching or exercise stuff. But you know what? Here's the positive side of this. I am hitting my goal for that. So that's good. But man, when I get sick, I get really fucking down. You know what it is? I don't like to be able to feel my throat. I hate that I can't control that pain. And I feel like such a baby about it. I was talking to Emily about that. Like, women go through all like crazy childbirth, like horrific pain. And I'm like, my throat hurts. Somebody feel bad for me. I'm like, oh God damn it. Good Lord. So seriously, open season to make fun of me. I welcome it. I encourage it. I'll feel weird if you don't do it. Okay, but you know what? Big picture, I'm doing pretty darn good, all things considered. So this is an interview episode, so let's just get to it. We are so lucky that we get Tina Mathams. She's so generous with her time, with her knowledge. She's given us 2 workshops now in the ADHD Big Brother community, and they're freaking awesome. But if you're new to Tina, here's her bio. She's got over 10 years experience in various areas of accounting, notably business advisory, CFO services, taxation. She's a content creator. She's got Instagram. If you guys are following her, I'll put the link down there. All that stuff will be in the show notes. But she's like a content creator in the financial and neurodivergent spaces. She loves keeping up to date with everything tax, accounting, and business so that you don't have to. What an amazing human. Because guess what? Words I don't want to do, accounting and business. So thank you, Tina. Tax numbers are proudly her hyper-focus. Wow. Outside of work, she's a wife. She's a mom of 2 young children. She's an animal lover. She can eat Japanese food till the cows come home. And she enjoys heading to the Gold Coast when her family needs a well-earned holiday. That, my friends, is Tina Mathams. All of her links are going to be in the show notes to learn more about her. But let's pop into part 2 and continue our discussion on finances. So here is yours truly and Tina talking about finances. Let's listen in. I really loved the money story stuff, and I really loved. I had this idea of what is the ideal me that's managing my finances. What does that look like? I could do that, but then what I was struggling with was what is the work to be done. And I remember you gave us a kick butt workshop. And we're teeing up that we're going to talk about money values. Is that the next step of this process?
Yeah, it's a good idea to do it early in the financial journey, just so, because again, it sort of ties in with all of this sort of past money story, history of how we've managed money, all that kind of stuff. It ties in with that to then help you when you do sort of look at your cash flow and your budget and all the other stuff that sort of comes down the track.
Probably where I'm the most stuck is what does my day look like when I'm successfully managing my finances?
Yep.
What does that look like? Oh, you once a week you open up your financial document and then what? What is the thing that I would be doing?
Well, I guess it depends, yeah, how you want to do that. Like some people want to do it every day, some people want to do it weekly, other people are happy to do it monthly. So it's just creating this idea of exactly what that looks like. So are you opening your bank account quickly every day? When you sit down once a week, you could have a certain day where you do a money date, whether that's with yourself or with your partner, um, where you can have a look at how your cash flow is going. If you've got financial goals, are you on track with those? Are you putting savings anywhere? All that kind of stuff that you can sit down and just go, well, what does that look like for me? Because it's all well and good for me to sit here and go, well, it's going to look like X, Y, Z. But if that doesn't suit you, if you don't want to think about your
Oh,
finances every day, that's completely fine. Not many people want to.
I
I don't
don't.
even look at I don't look at my bank account every day either. It's not something I want to do. So yeah, and look, it might be trial and error as well. If this is new to you or someone listening, you might not even know what that looks like. So it might be like, well, what feels good for me at the moment? Does it feel good to sit down once a week because, I can make a time in my calendar. I can sit down and have a look at this once a week and that feels good. And then from there, you can just go, well, do I do this weekly? Do I stretch it out a little bit? Maybe when you're further down the track. And yeah, just looking, as I said, at all those sorts of things. So looking at your bank transactions, if you've got goals, are you on track with those? And even with that, you can create your, own money date, what you want that to look like. Do you only want to look at one
Yeah.
thing or do you want to have a look at, a bit of everything to see how you're going?
What if I guinea pig myself right now? Because this is very interesting. Can I just tell you some of my problems then? And then like,
Go for it.
yeah, yeah, pick one, dude. Yeah, I know you got plenty. Okay, so where I struggle with money is in a few areas, all right? So
Mm,
I have uh, the idea of I don't have my credit card payments locked in. So I don't like I keep forgetting when they are. Like is it
mm,
on and there's a few of them. Is it on the 5th and the 18th and the 23rd? I don't know. And
yep,
so and then also the work that I do, I'm solopreneur, so some months are great, some are like, "Oh man, okay, so that's a little bit less." So it feels like I'm just kind of randomly funneling money into my main account to cover
yep,
groceries and to cover rent and to cover whatever. It just feels really freaking sloppy. Um,
mm,
and there's a part of me that's like, well, if I knew where everything was going and what everything looked like, I could
mm-hmm,
maybe poke in on Fridays for an hour just to see if
yep.
everything's on par. But I don't know what that looks like. I don't know
Mm.
how that looks.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, it's with people who are business owners or even people who might work casually or different jobs or something, there can be that fluctuation in income, right? And it
Hmm.
can make it a little bit messy to go, well, how much is coming in this week or this month or something. I always tell people that if that's them, see if there's a baseline of income that you can identify. So, for you, for example, if you've got sort of your different areas where you get income from,
Hmm.
the coaching, the one-on-one coaching, et cetera, have a look at sort of what you've earned in the last, I don't know, few months or something, and just sort of see if there's that minimum that you can identify. As I said, each week, each month, however often you do get paid and budget from that. So if you've got payments, your credit card payments or whatever, then you can set up those installments, those payments on those particular days. And again, when you're sort of doing those money dates, if you want to sit down, on a Friday or whenever it is to do your money date, you can then have a look. when is my next credit card payment due, or whatever it is. Make sure it's in your calendar or a reminder or somewhere that, you can put it, it's due here, or you can
Hmm.
set up the payment already. You can, automate the payment. But if you can at least sit down and identify at least that minimum that you're getting paid, that might help you to do all that kind of stuff. So set up those automatic payments, put money to, into your main account for groceries, set up money for savings, all that kind of stuff. And that might help you make you feel a little bit more structured rather than sitting down and going, well, I don't even know how much is coming in. Let me see how much is in,
Yeah.
and then I can do all that each week. It does, if you sort of do it that way, which is, I know it's easier in some way because you don't have to do all that, pre-planning stuff. But it does make it a little bit more chaotic, which can use up a lot more mental energy when we go and sit down and go, well, now I have to figure out all of this before I can even get to, automating payments or putting money anywhere or things like that.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of that. The automating of pay,
Hmm.
the auto, that's how you say, automating. I've done a lot of automating before. The I and I feel like that's part of my problem at the moment because
Yep.
I don't think about it. So
Yep.
but I'm always surprised at how much money I do or don't have. I'm like, oh, I have extra money, or oh my God, I need to fuel money right now, or Schwab is telling me that I need to funnel $50 from another account because it's already gone past
Yep.
that kind of stuff. And I've done that a million times where I've created a spreadsheet where it
Hmm.
says where all my monthly payments are coming out.
Yep.
I don't know what to do with it. It's sort of like the daily planner problem with ADHD, where
Mm.
I got it, I put it together, but I never look at it.
Yep.
What is the solution for my kind of a brain?
So I'm interested when you said that if you put it on the spreadsheet, you put all your payments that are coming out and then you don't know what to do with it. I want to talk a little bit more about that. So
Okay.
what what do you expect it to do? Like if you sort of have it there, is it just that you don't want to open it every day and then you sort of forget about it? Or,
Yeah,
yeah, because you said, you don't know what to do with it. Well, it's there to sort of, I guess, remind you and make sure you're,
I'm
on
laughing
track with
right.
your cash flow.
I'm laughing right now because I don't know what I just did. I'm like, I
Yeah,
made the thing
yeah,
now, but now what do I do with it?
yeah,
I
yeah,
can, I made a neat thing on a spreadsheet.
yeah,
That's as far as it goes.
yeah.
Help me. What do I do with it?
All right. I'll talk a little bit about how I deal with that because I also have a
Yes,
spreadsheet
please.
with when everything sort of comes out.
Okay.
Um, so I have gotten into the habit of opening it every day
Okay.
because I kind of call it like my master spreadsheet. So it's not only a bit of a cash flow thing. I've got other stuff on there like my pipeline and other sort of, client stuff, etc. So I'm in a habit now of opening it and just having a look at it every day. I don't
Okay.
put any pressure on myself to necessarily do anything with it. So that might be something where, maybe yourself or someone else is getting caught up. It's like, well, I've done this. So what do I do with it? It's not necessarily that you need to do anything with it. It's more just a system of being able to visually see when things are coming out and then have it act as a reminder as well. So if you do want to get into the habit of opening something like that every day, just remove the pressure. It's not like, you have to do something with it. It's, as I said, it's more just a tool to just sort of, act as that reminder, act as that sort of visualization, tool where you can just open it and go, okay, well, is there anything that I need to pay today? Is there anything, coming up within the next week that I need to remind myself to pay? That's what it does for me. I don't often automate payments because I'm, a lot like other ADHDers where I might automate it and then completely forget if there's no money in that particular account or whatever. So it works better for me if I just open that document and go, okay, well, I've got to pay this in 3 days' time. If I keep opening that without the expectation of having to necessarily do anything with it, it just acts as that daily reminder. This is coming up. This is coming up. And then when I open it on the day, I'm like, oh, now I have to go pay this. And I'll just jump into
Okay.
my bank, pay it, like I color code it, so I color code it that I've paid it, and then it's done. So
Okay.
so it doesn't necessarily need to do anything once you've put all that information on there. It just needs to make sense for what you're trying to achieve, I guess.
That's brilliant. I'm really thinking, okay, I'm really comparing this to sort of like, ADHD coaching type stuff where you're like, well, just look
Mm.
at your schedule, just look at your day,
Yeah.
just look at it.
Yeah.
And eventually insights start to happen and eventually
Mhm.
things start popping up. So if I
Yeah.
had that on my plan of every morning, I open this up and I just look. Is
Mhm.
anything happening today? Is anything happening this week? Maybe I open up my Schwab account because that's basically where everything is
Mhm.
and say, do I have the money in there to pay for it? Or is it
Yep.
covered? That would be effective.
Yeah.
That would be like, okay, yeah, you're handling your finances.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think
Done.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Challenge accepted on that one.
Okay, good.
My Google sheet. Is there a Google sheet that's like, I don't know, do you have a template that's super fun and cool?
I've got a Google Sheet one, which is it's it's kind of like meant for your annual budget, but it breaks down the payments that you need to save, I guess, each week or something. So it gives you like it's really cool because it gives you sort of like a good overview of your year where it's like, well, if we take into account all the stuff you need to pay for the year or your income, it sort of just works out how much money you have left over each week. So you know how when you sort of go, well, I've got heaps of money this week because I don't need to pay anything, but you can't think of that thing down, it's like 3 months down the track where it's going to be like a $2,000 payment or something. This
Yeah.
spreadsheet will actually calculate that into, well, if we take that into, like break it down into weekly amounts or something, you don't have this much left over. You actually got this because you need to take into account this thing like 3 months down the track. So it kind of helps with that executive functioning of the organization. And then I've kind of got like my very simple Excel spreadsheet, which I just use for my cash flow. But I love it because I can put all my income in there that I'm expecting, and then it sort of just, I color code the expenses. And then, yeah, as I said, it acts as my reminder. And, it just gives me like a amount that I will have left over once I take into account everything that
Yeah.
I've got to pay for next week or whatever.
That's really cool. I literally want to look at that. Do you have a
Yeah.
blank one that I can look at?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Do
can
you
send you the templates for both. Yeah.
that's awesome. Is this what people get when they work with you?
Yes and no. Some people don't want to even look at a spreadsheet, so they don't. But certainly, like, yeah, if they do need something like that, I've got these templates that I can pass on, and yeah.
The thing that excites me the most is to see what you use.
Mm.
Because if you are, it's like seeing behind the Wizard of Oz. Like, what's Oz
Yeah,
using? You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
amazing.
absolutely. Yeah,
Well, how about we do this? So whenever that becomes available, that'll be in the show notes, the landing
yep,
page, so that people
yep.
can download it. This is like a lot for me, like in terms of a to do next step, because I really want to
Mm,
get tight with my finances. So
yep.
this is what I'm going to take from this particular episode, and this will be what I carry into the next month is to
Hmm.
have that Google sheet, which is going to have my expenses and when they come out,
Yep.
and my challenge to myself and to everybody in the community. So everybody build a Google sheet, right? And put your finances in there. And then
Hmm.
let's look at it every day and just look at
Yep.
it with no to do beyond just take a peek.
Hmm.
That's really, really cool.
Yep.
Um, do you talk about this in your book? Because we should talk about your book.
Yes. Obviously I can't put the spreadsheets in the book, but yes, sort of I go into little tips and tricks like that in the book as well. And the way my book is set out is kind of what we've been talking about. So, last podcast episode we spoke about all the sort of behind the scenes stuff, like what's happened in our past, et cetera, et cetera. And then it kind of goes into, talking about values and things like that. And then going into the actual money side, like cash flow and budgeting and all that kind of stuff,
Oh,
which I set it out that way just so I really wanted people, even though you can kind of pick up the book and, read any chapter, but I really wanted people to get a sense of, there's other stuff to think about, not just the budgeting, which, might pique people's interest if they don't need to jump straight into budgeting, because that's often a thing that people avoid. It's like, well, I don't want to do budgeting. And then they just avoid everything about finances because they think they need to start with a budget when in fact it's, they don't have to. So
I'm that way big time. Well,
yeah,
I would say I'm that way of like, I don't want to look at it because I don't
yeah,
like what I'm looking at.
yes,
There's not
yep,
enough zeros at the end of my budget. I'm
yep,
like, I want it to be prettier, and I don't want to have stress
mm,
about money.
yep.
So God, that's interesting. So what's the arc?
Mm.
What is the arc of the journey from in your book? If I was
Yep.
going to read it from start to finish.
Yep. So it introduces the concept of ADHD just briefly. It's obviously not like a book about ADHD necessarily, so I didn't want to spend too much time on that.
Mhm.
But it kind of, just delves briefly into ADHD and then how that affects our money. And then goes into, as I said, talking about our past. People, there's worksheets in there, so people will be able to sort of work through their own money story. And then it sort of throughout the book, it talks about, I put my little sort of personal things in there as well. So you sort of get to know me a little bit more. And then it goes into like emotions and our financial values. Emotions is one of the sort of bigger chapters because it is a really big thing when it comes to money, especially for ADHDers, because we feel our emotions
Mhm.
so deeply. We struggle to regulate them, especially around money. So, there's
Mhm.
a big chapter on what that means, what that looks like, how we can start to sort of regulate our emotions around money. And then, yeah, the financial values as well, where there's a worksheet in there to come up with your own financial values. And then sort of once people have done all that work, that's when it starts to talk about, okay, well, now that we know all of that, now that we know our values, now that we know that, looking at our bank account might bring up all these kinds of feelings, that's when it starts to go into, how that might affect our cash flow and our budgeting. And let's budget in a different way. Let's, look at our savings. So it kind of goes cash flow, budgeting, savings, talking about debt as well, which is sort of the second part of the book. And then a little bit of a Q&A as well. So I just,
Oh, right on.
I started to compile a list of, the stuff that I often get asked about. And then just did a bit of a Q&A at the end. So yeah, that's essentially how the book will run.
That's awesome. And I've
Yeah.
already bought it. I have already purchased it, and I believe it will be delivered in July 1st. I think
Yes.
sometime in July. When is it officially released? Because it's on pre-order right now.
Yeah. So in Australia, it's released on, I was about to say March. It's May the 28th,
That's coming up.
25th or 28th. I think it's the 28th. And then, yeah, from there it'll flow internationally. So I think in the UK it might be June. And then obviously in America, it's, yeah, that June, July.
Oh my God, that's coming up.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked for you.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Come back on the show like when you're doing your press tour. And
I will, my
you
friend.
have
Yeah.
to. So what
Yeah.
like Q&A, what is one or two of the most common things, maybe specifically from ADHDers
Mhm.
that are seeking your guidance?
One of the big questions is how do I stop impulsively spending?
Okay.
So there is a lot about that in the book. So even though if there is a Q&A on that, then I guide people into that chapter. I think it's chapter 3, where I talk more about it. It's the number one thing that I'll get asked about, whether I work with people or if I'm on podcasts or anything that I'm doing,
Mhm.
how to stop impulsively spending. What we spoke about before about the income that might be different each week or each month. That's actually something that comes up a lot because obviously a lot of ADHDers are self-employed, do have their own
Yeah.
business. Yeah, and that is something as well that does come up quite a bit. So yeah, that's in the Q&A as well.
Oh wow. Okay. And then, so
Yeah.
what is a thing I can do to stop impulsively spending? Because I am massively guilty of that.
So the first thing to do is to have self-compassion and be aware of it. Because a lot of people want to stop. They're like, how can I stop doing this? And it's like, well, because being impulsive is part of our ADHD, it's very hard to completely stop. So I put this sort of, asterisks where it's like we can decrease our impulsive spending. And I used to be a massive impulsive spender, but I still do it because it's part of my ADHD. So I have to be okay with that. Otherwise, if I'm not, that's when it starts to spiral. If we just shame ourselves, can't believe you did this again. Why are you spending all this money? You're so bad with money. That's when we start to go into that spiral. And, we can then spend more because we're trying to make ourselves feel better, or we're trying to reiterate the point that we're bad with money because we just keep spending. So there's a lot of, emotional work and mindset when it comes to impulsive spending. But then you've got the sort of like tools and strategies that you can use. Like the 24-hour rule is a really good one where you think about the purchase for 24 hours before you buy it, which can be hard in itself, right? So this is quite a mainstream tip for everybody, even neurotypical brains. For a neurotypical brain, that might be quite easy. It's like, oh, I'm going to stop myself. I'm going to think about it. And they just go through the steps. Whereas for an ADHDer, yes, we can do that, but that can come with a lot of work in itself. We have to stop that urge to want to buy that thing, which, that's really hard for us. It's really hard. We have to sort of learn that skill to not give in to that urge. But, you can make it not 24 hours. You can, if that seems way too long and overwhelming, if you're in the shop, for example, and you see something, it's like, well, actually, I'm just going to go to do this other thing first. If I still want it, maybe I'll come back and have another look. But I always say, like, think about that when you've done it and how many times have you just forgotten? Like, I don't know about you, but I've seen something, gone somewhere else and completely forgotten about that thing that I saw like half an hour ago. And I've saved myself, $20 or whatever it was.
Totally.
Yeah. So there's little things like that you can put in place to, help yourself to, stop that urge and stop that purchase. But it's also about, not saying no necessarily. Like sometimes you do want to purchase that thing and that's okay. What we're trying to do with the situation is just trying not to do it impulsively, just in case it's something that we don't actually want or don't actually need. But if I feel that I see something that I really might want, I'll just make a note of it. I'll pop a note in my phone, pop a reminder, or take a photo or something. That allows my brain to forget about it easier. Like it tells my brain that if you forget about it, it's okay because you've got a note of it. Whereas if you tell your brain like don't forget about it, don't forget about it, don't forget about it, it's all you can do. It can consume your brain, and then that's all you can think about, and then you can't focus on anything else. So sometimes I see things like a month down the track and I'm like, oh, that's right, I really wanted that thing. And if I still want it like a month later, then, maybe I go get it, or maybe I keep it on my wish list or something like that. So yeah, that's probably a whole podcast episode in itself, but we can get to that one.
Which is awesome. I work very well with black and white thinking sometimes. When it comes, I come from addiction, right? So it's like you do the thing or you don't do the thing. There's no moderation. And I apply that to a lot of stuff. And I don't know how great I am at it right now, but for impulsive spending, like what you're talking about there's like a price limit. I think it's like somewhere around $100 is where it is for me, where if there's anything over $100, I'm not allowed to buy it until I've either waited a day, or there was one time when I was like, oh, I have to tell somebody that I want to buy it. Because if I'm nervous to tell somebody, then there's then they're like, oh, then is this just an impulse buy because you want something in the moment? Or is this, that's super interesting to me.
Yeah. And they're also really good strategies. And that's the thing, like it's one of the, we can often get caught up in, well, I've tried a couple of different things and they don't work. So then, maybe this is just not for me. Maybe I can't decrease my impulsive spending. But a lot of it is to do with you just need to find what works for you. And that can often change again. So the 24-hour thing is something that's worked for me for years. I feel like that's one of my things that I can always rely on. But there'll be other strategies that I use that will work for a little bit and then won't work down the track. And that's also okay. It's, then you just come up with something else. So I really also encourage people that, just because they've tried one or two things doesn't mean that they can't get better at their money and impulsive spending and things like that. It just means that they haven't found the strategy that works for them at the moment. And, you know, as I said, it's that trial and error. It's just, what else can I try? But yeah, I love those strategies as well. I really like the price limit one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You brought up solopreneurship, and I wanted to. Well, I brought it up, and then you talked about it, and then I wanted to bring up something about it. The what advice do you have for people that have like the solopreneur income that happens? Like mine is, it's like through Stripe, right? So community members, when I invoice clients, everything is through Stripe. So Stripe will be like, and I'm depositing this into your account, and I'm depositing that into your account. It's never a reliable amount of money. So I could take the average based on the past couple of months, like what you were talking about.
Yeah.
But is there a advice on how to be looking at that or dividing that money up? Or I don't even know what the question to ask is. That's how far away from it I am.
Sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat all that because my internet just went dead. And I think I may have missed part of the question, and I don't want to answer the question.
What is the secret to making $1 million as a solopreneur? Now, I was basically saying that, like, so I don't necessarily have well, I'll just cut this out. And then I was basically saying I don't have a steady income, right?
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that I'm taking the advice of taking the averages, so that's what I can kind of rely on, but I'm also trying to grow it.
Yep.
I don't even know what I should be thinking about or how to delineate money and be like, this part goes here, this part goes here. Is there any kind of general advice on how to look at this or how to operate with this?
Yes. So I guess in Australia we've got which I'm assuming is a lot of the different, like, well, a lot of the same parts of the world. With our tax system, we've got certain percentages that, you know, generally we'll need to pay tax on. So when I'm talking about that with somebody who might be in Australia, one of my you know, accounting clients or something, if they want to know how to split up their income, we'll go, well, put 30% away for tax. You know, you might have like 20% of your income that might be for expenses. You know, how much do you want to take of that, et cetera, et cetera. So a good idea to sort of generally think about that is have a look at your expenses. So how much expenses do you have per month? Your yearly expenses, you know, you can divide those into 12 and get that monthly expense for those. But how much of your income would you need to put away for expenses? You can pop that in a different account or something like that. And then, you know, based on the tax system where you are or where someone's listening, like, what does that look like? Do you need to put away 20%? Do you need to put away a little bit more? So you can kind of start to divide the income up like that. And then if you sort of work off that average, but then 1 month you get a whole lot more, let's just say you get double of that baseline that you're working off. When that comes in, you can kind of think of that like a bit of a bonus. So where is that bonus going to go? Is it, are you going to put away a little bit more for, you know, tax as a buffer? Are you going to give yourself a bit of a bonus in, you know, your personal pay or something like that? And then, you know, it's a good idea. Like that's where the data comes into it. And that's why it's a really good idea to, you know, have that spreadsheet or something where you can look at the past income, because then you can look at that data and go, well, okay, maybe in 6 months, maybe I've got a new baseline because my income has grown, my business has grown. So I've got that new baseline. So then you can, you know, rework your expenses to that baseline. And then you just sort of keep going like that. So you still get, you know, the quote unquote bonus because you're working off a baseline. So you'll have months where more money comes in. But as long as you're kind of looking at that data and going, okay, well, I've consistently had, you know, $500 more each month. So I'm going to increase my baseline by 500. We've got new, you know, new amounts that we need to put away for tax, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, then, you know, use that extra money as that bonus. Where is that going? Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, 100%. Anytime my mind is going, okay, this is my next assignment. This is my next thing. This is what I'm going to do. My commitment to you. This is what I'm going to do. Create a Google sheet. or cut and paste the one that I've already done. I know that I have one. I'd probably have like 30 of them. Okay. And then I'm going to use that, create when things are due. Looking at that, I will probably create a specific account, the ADHD Big Brother account. And so then all the software, all the services that are paid will come out of that account.
Yep.
And then I'll pull another account for taxes and automatically pull out a percentage, whatever. I'll have to figure out what that is. It might be like 20% or something like that. This is awesome. This is super helpful. Thank you so much.
Good. I'm glad.
You're going to get me financially healthy. I believe it. Well, so we'll wrap that up here. Thank you so much for doing this yet again.
That's okay.
And no one, you're coming into the community to do another workshop, but it will have been already gone. So thank you for that workshop. It was amazing, I'm assuming.
You're so welcome.
We will all go out and get the book, ADHD Money, and you can get it on Amazon. I'll put the link to the Amazon in the show notes, unless there's another specific place. But thank you so much, Tina. You're awesome. I appreciate you.
Well, I'm welcome to come back anytime. So just let me know.
Yes, book release date. Let's do it.
Yep. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
And there you have it. God dang it. By the way, I have completed the Google Sheet that I talked about, and I'm looking at it daily. Super insightful, BT dubs. You want to know what I found out? I found out I spent way too much money on groceries last month. Way too much money. Like the amount of money as though I had 5 children. It's ridiculous. So this has been a good awareness, and it's helping me to craft some plans around that. So let's see if I can make some financially healthier choices over the next few months. We shall see. So thank you again, Tina, for being so generous with your time and your talents. And I highly encourage all of you to pre-order her book right now. Pre-order it! And follow along with Tina on her own podcast, ADHD Money and Finance. Links are all downstairs there in the show notes. And with that, I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I shall talk to you later.